is the issue of the Stop the Violence letter. It is unfinished business from a previous meeting, and we've got some limited time this evening because we have a really long agenda. But I would like to introduce it at this point with a couple of comments. The discussion will be amongst council for the discussion, and then once we've determined that we've spoken as we wish on it, then we'll open it up, because we do then at the end of the meeting have questions from the floor, so we can involve comments from the floor on this item and any of the other items that were on the agenda this evening. So, introducing this, I would like to have council consider first whether what they're looking for is to frame a motion that would direct council in some way, or whether they just wish to express their opinions on this at this point and to explore the topic and discussion. My feeling at this point is that this will be a big issue at UBCM. It's commanded already a whole morning session on Monday, the 24th of September, and will be on the floor later on with the various motions that will be brought forward in the regular package. But the morning agenda will involve 3 hours basically of open opportunity for communities to discuss this. You've already gotten various pieces of information that I've submitted. I think probably the most startling one for me right now was the last piece of information that I sent up from the state of Washington, and I've seen this running on various Washington channels, where the lady stands up and says, or sits down and says, I'm not really happy about this, but this is the situation. What we're doing isn't working. So, Council, I guess what I'm asking you to start with is, have you got a better way than what's being suggested at this point by the movement that says stop the violence, let's look at a different way of dealing with cannabis? Councillor Wershagen is chomping at the bit to open discussions.
Yeah, chomping at the bit here, Mr. Mayor, only in that, without interruption, you call it point of order. From my minutes that I'm looking at here, it does say on May 25th that the primary committee, for which we're in right now, has disposed of this issue to resolve that it be received as information. I don't think 6 months has come up for bringing this back, nor is your 1 month privilege or power available to you right now.
I don't believe that this was a motion.
It says motion. Smith can't resolve that.
Right, we received the discussion. We didn't make a decision. We received the discussion on the agenda, so those rules don't apply. Do you want to challenge the chair? We can ask for a ruling.
Yeah, I would actually.
All right, and could I ask for some assistance here in a ruling on this matter? The way I saw it was that this was on the agenda and we simply received the discussion in the primary meeting.
There was no action out of the resolution?
No. So that's the ruling. Is that acceptable to you?
Well, I suppose it's going to have to be.
Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's on the table and I'm open to comments on it. Councillor Krog, who had requested that this be brought at an opportunity where he could speak to it.
As well as all the other members as well. They didn't even turn me on. I thought I was going to be late. Again, I apologize for that. And one of the things is I've looked through the materials, I've looked through the Stop the Violence campaign, I've gone to the various websites that are tagged by it, and I would be willing to make a motion that we not support the Stop the Violence campaign.
All right, and is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Wires?
No.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor that we not support the Stop the Violence campaign. And why would you...
the way it's written, it's motherhood. Like, who wouldn't want to stop the violence, right? Like, so to speak against it makes you sound really bad. But the reality is, from all the stuff I've looked at, it won't stop the violence. There are some individuals that have stepped forward and put their names publicly saying that they would, they're mayors or ex-RCMP or police officers and doctors and stuff. But for every person on that list, there's probably tens of thousands of peace officers that actually don't agree with it. I know there is a coalition that does agree with it. Bottom line, it's saying legalize marijuana. No matter how you want to put it out, technically it's legalizing marijuana. The controlling of it, I don't want to make tax money off another vice, because that's what it is, whether it's alcohol or whatever. So I can't see the tax revenue coming in, and I don't think I want the tax revenue coming in from that. So that's one. And they said that if they regulate it, it'd be similar to our liquor store system. Well, the ad from Washington State has just finished privatizing all their liquor stores. They actually sold them off. They're not in the liquor business anymore, so just distribution channels would be through private entrepreneurs, and that's basically, our provincial government has already stated that Kevin Falcon is looking at that as a potential option, which is privatizing all of our liquor stores as well. So we won't have as much control as if the government had control over it rather than private individuals. I'm not pleased with some of the arguments, because it always goes back to, well, prohibition didn't work. But when they took away prohibition, the crime didn't go down. It actually went up. And I can pretty well figure any gang that makes money off marijuana, the fact that it's regulated is just going to open up new avenues, and they'll just, because they're mostly exporting anyways. So I can't see it having an effect. I love the idea that yeah, if we got rid of this, we can focus on this. But in those reports, it also says stop the violence. It mentions other mind-altering drugs, for want of a better word. So it actually mentions meth, and it mentions crack. So if we regulated crack, then that would cut down on the crime, right? Which it would, but I don't want to do that. It's not our job. I just have one more, I think. You look at any statistics, a child's first introduction to alcohol is in the home. Seriously, that's where people get their first taste of alcohol, is in the home. So now we have something that's legal. I'm not even going to get into the debate of how many chemicals there may or may not be in marijuana when you smoke it, what it does to you as far as physically or mentally. It has its benefits, obviously, medical marijuana, pain management, that's all good. Have I smoked marijuana? Yes, I have. I smoked a whole bunch of it when I was a kid. But then I grew up and decided, no, I shouldn't be doing this. I need to get on with my life. And I just don't think it's gonna, it sounds good, but when you start thinking about it, it's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. Thank you.
So can I ask you one question?
Yes.
So you basically support keeping the same course, doing the same things we're doing right now with the marijuana issue?
As far as the way, if there are flaws in the medical marijuana system, right? If those could be corrected and the people that need it get it, I think that would be way better to put our efforts into fixing that system, and to leave it as unlegalized or as a criminal activity. I believe in that, and I believe that if we want to fight crime, it's not letting another drug become, except we need to take down the other drugs. If you want to get rid of gangs, then
so
you
the
need
drug
to
war
stop.
basically is going to work eventually.
No. Honestly, criminals are always going to be there. They're going to do whatever they want to do. like I say, it's a nice motherhood thing, but it's like physically it's not going to work. The war on drugs isn't working.
No.
And so what we're doing isn't working. But this is, actually, if you think of it, it's, the way I viewed it, and I thought about it today, was if you flipped it over and you said, with the prohibition argument, that look at how that failed, right? Now, what did they sell prohibition under? It was better for the communities, it would reduce crime, it's better for people, family, health, everything that these guys are saying, only it's on the opposite side. So if that argument led to that and it didn't work, then this is the exact same argument, it's just flipped. And I will say one last thing, just because. And that is, I was thinking about it too as we're sitting on the side of the road with a grass fire in Montana, was do you know anybody who drinks to get drunk? Yeah, I know tons of people who drink to get drunk, right? Do you know anybody that drinks with no intention of getting drunk? Yeah, I know lots of people that have wine that there's no intention to get drunk. I don't know of anybody who smokes marijuana without the intention of getting stoned. Now, whether it's for altering for pain management, yeah, it's true. Oh, is Gallery 2 going to have a token cheese or a token cheesies night? No, they'll have a wine and cheese. A couple of people will have wine. Some are going to have way too much wine, but other people just enjoy it. But I don't know, and maybe it's my background and where I grew up.
Councillor Card, I would love to give you more time to explain your twisted logic, but I think we'll see if other councillors...
It's probably twisted logic from the dope I smoked when I was in
Further councillors?
I'd like to say something.
Councillor Kendall.
I can't say that I'm in favor of marijuana smoking, but I do feel that the system that's in place now is basically a lost cause. The war on drugs isn't working, and whether it's the Stop the Violence campaign or a modified version of that or whatever it may be, I think that we have to collectively look at alternatives to what's being done now. And again, I'm not condoning the use of drugs, although I believe that trying to control their use in the manner that we are using now is not successful. It does breed violence with gangs and other things. And I think that if the discussion is opened and everyone looks at it maybe with slightly different viewpoint, that there is a way to make this situation better, whatever that is. I think that's what I see this discussion as. It is not just a black and white, but there is probably a gray area that we can do a better job of dealing with the drug problem from the law enforcement side, and also looking at it from if it's a taxation side or whatever. But I just think that I don't have a problem with the discussion, is what I'm saying, and I think that's helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Vershaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question for you. Over 4 years here, this topic has come up quite a few times, and I'm just curious for myself, and I'm sure there's others involved as well, what exactly your purpose is in bringing this constantly up. You have a bias on the subject, that's for certain, so regardless if I agree or disagree with what you're saying, you're going to not change your mind. As far as I can tell, you're coming in with a closed mind on the subject, and then you're asking us to keep an open one. So I'm just kind of curious, what is the purpose to continuously keep bringing this up? And being that, regardless of what he says or what I say, you're going to keep your same bias on the subject. And I feel like we should just call for the question and move on.
Okay, well, a call for a question doesn't automatically call a question, and we are still in discussions. 12, 13 years ago, I was a voice in the wilderness, the sound of one hand clapping. Now it's everybody's business. It's a big part of UBCM. The list of people who have stepped forward and risked their political capital to speak out on this has been enormous. It's probably the most movement and the most momentum I've ever seen in my lifetime. So yes, I have an opinion on it, and it is a strong opinion. Give me something that will change my mind, and I'll be willing to keep an open mind. But the drug war is not working. You know that. I know that. And so suggest another approach other than what we're looking at here, which is to open the dialogue, as Councillor Kendall indicated. At the last meeting, I was hard-pressed to pry a comment out of any of you. If I wouldn't have monotonously gone on for 10 minutes, we wouldn't have even had a discussion. So come on, Councillor. Let's hear what your opinion is on it, not an attack on me for bringing it up.
No, I'm not attacking you. I'm just pointing out the fact that you have a bias on the subject. That is not,
I have an opinion on the subject.
That's not true at all. My opinion on the subject really does not matter because it's not going to change your mind.
So that's it?
Quite honestly, I prefer if we're going to speak about on issues that don't have anything to do with the city of Grand Forks and our provincial or federal matters, we speak on issues such as poverty.
You don't think this issue has anything to do with Grand Forks?
Not to the extent that I think there are more important issues out there than this one.
Yes, there are, and we have been discussing them all evening. We've dedicated 15 minutes to a topic that UBCM is giving a half a day's session to. Your floor, if you wish to make further comment.
Like I say, I think you have a bias, and I think there's no reason to comment on this topic.
Any further, before I go back to Councillor Krog, any further comment? Councillor Smith, and we'll get back to Councillor Krog, no offense.
I kind of find, and I agree with some of Councillor Krog's comments there, that to call it Stop the Violence campaign is a bit of a red herring because it's not really addressing the true issue or the thing that we can actually deal with, which is the regulation of marijuana. And to those people that need it, really, I think is where it comes to. I support the idea that we need to look at this because, again, hearing some of the comments here, the current system isn't working. But, Stop the Violence is just a bit of a herring in my view. I think we should continue to look at it, but for what it is, not for what somebody would make it out to be.
Okay, so you feel that the representation of Stop the Violence is a distortion?
It's a distortion of really what the true issue is,
okay,
and who the true beneficiaries of this will be.
Okay. Further? Councillor Krog.
Yeah, I was hoping that Councillor Vershegen would share his opinion as well as the other councillors, not to change your mind, but to maybe share yours with the rest of council. And that's sort of what I was thinking of. And I might as well just finish this. The UBCM, yes, they are going to address it because it's been brought up in a 3-hour session before the UBCM really actually even opens. They haven't done the opening ceremony, so it's in with the agriculture tours and the other, elective stuff. So I don't think they're putting as big a push on it as that. And so it's pre-conference. And I've used the word, and you used the word drug war, and I said the drug war wasn't working. I'm not referring specifically to, if you wanted to call it the war on marijuana, not because the war on drugs is not working, right? Crack, meth, heroin, marijuana, all of it. Now, whether one's worse than the other, whatever, but if there was a different way to do it, and that's why I phrased the motion as not supporting the Stop the Violence campaign, because I don't think it does, as Councillor Smith was uncomfortable. I don't think it's the answer. Is there more discussion needed? Sure. Is there a better answer? Could be. I don't want to legalize marijuana. Is decriminalizing it something? Is cleaning up the medical part and making it actually work for the people something?
Councillor Wyers.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I have stated my opinion in the past, for the past 4 years. And my position is, and I agree with Councillor Krog, it goes right back to prohibition with alcohol. Today, what are we seeing? Millions and millions of dollars spent in every province across this country, around the world, in breathalyzers, stopping and getting people off the roads for drinking, fetal alcohol syndrome babies, broken families, AA, Al-Anon, and on it goes. So did we win with alcohol? No. Can some people enjoy a drink? Yes. Can some people go to a party and want to get completely obliterated? Yes. But that is the human factor that's on the line. We're the ones who are responsible for what our actions. And today, I strongly feel that the answer is not in legalizing marijuana. The medical marijuana has already been legalized, and that issue has to be addressed with Health Canada to make it accessible to the people who need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Your Worship, I respect what you do in your private life. You want to promote marijuana. That's your business. And those people that want to promote marijuana, that's their business. But I'm not a supporter of promoting marijuana.
Legalization.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further comments? Ready for the question. So can we clarify the wording of that again, please?
Resolved that the primary committee recommends to council to receive for discussion the mayor's verbal presentation with regard to the Stop the Violence campaign aimed at developing and implementing cannabis-related policies that improve public health while reducing social harms, including crime and gang activity, and further determines not to support the Stop the Violence campaign.
Not to support the Stop the Violence campaign. That's the motion on the floor. All those in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. So the council's official position is not to support the Stop the Violence campaign. Thank you very much, Councillor, for your debate and participation. And now, as I said, we are finishing the evening with an opportunity for those in the gallery to come forward on this and any of the other matters that were in front of us this evening. Please feel free to step forward and speak to council.
I guess all those bikes I see going up the North Fork for the last 2 summers are going to really be happy with your decision, because there's something up there. I don't know what it is, but lots of big bikes. What could that be? The other thing is, it's interesting, the timing too, because there was a news item floating around about how they found the oldest stash of weed in the world in China 2,700 years ago. Some guy was buried with a whole bunch of weed, but he was ashamed. I guess it wasn't, that behavior wasn't being punished with criminality back then like it is now, and has been for the last, what, 78 years? It fuels crime. I mean, it fuels those guys because it's big taboo. The more taboo it is, the harsher the laws, the more the profit. The more you squeeze that pipeline, the more money they make off of it, and the more they'll fight over that money. And that's, in a sense, they say politics makes strange bedfellows. That's who you're in bed with by this decision. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
The shaman was medical.
Excuse me.
marijuana.
We listen, we're not debating. I just want to Yeah.
Good evening, Your Worship, Councillors. My name is Nigel James, and I'm a resident of Grand Forks. And I look around the 6 councillors, who are my councillors. The way that it's organised within the city is that councillors aren't responsible for wards or anything like that. Therefore, you are all my councillors. And when you're asked for your opinion on a certain subject, I feel that is one of your jobs is to give your opinion, whatever it may be, so that we can listen and understand the way you're thinking and be influenced by your thoughts, and a discussion or something can go. But I do not believe it is sufficient to basically sit on the fence and sit on your hands and not open your mouth. So I'd be grateful in future when you're asked for your opinion to give your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reyes, you wanted to introduce, we
Yes.
just take a second here. Please come forward.
I do sit on the library board for the public library here in Grand Forks, and our new library director, Avi Silverstein, is in the audience this evening, and I'd just like to introduce him to everyone. So, Avi, so be sure to go out to the library and introduce yourselves to Avi.
Sandy, it's all yours.
Yeah. My name's Sandra Mark. I'm a new resident in Grand Forks. I've been visiting here for many years and chose this community for its many assets and for the friendships and the relationships that we have in this region. I'm a social worker. I've taught at Carleton University and the University of Victoria. And I have worked with street kids and street folks in 4 or 5 cities, and I've seen the impact of our current system on people who are very vulnerable in our society. And I have worked with people, young people in particular, who have been the victim, in my view, of justice holding up, this whole thing of this war on drugs to complete decimation of these young people's lives. The troubles that they may be in and the reason they may be using booze or alcohol or, any of these drugs are often related to complicated situations in their family, poverty, and problems with their parents and problems in the community. And they have problems, and nobody seems to care too much about that. Instead of that, we say, oh, you've smoked marijuana, you did this bad thing, let's put you in jail, let's make you a criminal. And I've worked within many situations in jails and so on, and I've seen that people go into the prison system having smoked marijuana and end up coming out as criminals. And in my view, we actually have a huge social problem, and the fact that we think that we should solve our social problems with prisons, and we should solve our social problems through the justice system. We need to be, I think, much more broadly about what's really going on. And yes, people drink and they have alcohol problems, and those are real difficult things. And no doubt people would still abuse and whatever with drugs. But the fact of the matter is that if people get trapped into the justice system and trapped into the criminal system because of our laws, I'm just wondering who's at fault here. What is the fault? And my view, I think it's time for us to clear up some of these problems that we're creating ourselves and actually get to the bottom of it. So I appreciated listening to what your points of view are. It's a difficult project to talk about, difficult problem to talk about. But the fact of the matter is that 30 years ago, I think I got a grant from the Ledin Commission, the non-medical use of drug studies. Studies were being done 30, 40 years ago looking at these questions, and 30 and 40 years ago saying we need to be dealing with this as a health issue. We need to be dealing with these problems as social issues, not as criminal issues. This has been said over and over again, so people are bored with your worship's comments over and over again. But believe me, there's many people who have been saying this over and over again for a very long time. So yes, I think you're right. We do need to think of a good way to deal with this, but we need to deal with it. We really need to deal with it. And in my view, unless we get smart and unless we talk and unless we listen, it's going to be a long more time that we are criminalizing particularly young people and causing ourselves far more social problems than we already had in the beginning. So I appreciate your discussion. I hope you keep on discussing this. I'm interested to hear what's going to happen at the UBCM. I'm very grateful that Perry Kendall, the medical officer of health, has spoken out and said, this has to stop. We have to be looking at this in a much different way. So I appreciate the discussion, and I hope that over the next while, we actually can move out of the situation where we think that drugs should be dealt with through the law. We have to think of something different.
Further comment? John.
My name is Jock Mackay, resident of Grand Forks. The issue of Marshall Lake, the mining people have all the rights in the world. And if a certain lady in Greenwood, I won't mention her name, who's very aggressive in this sort of thing, if she sets her mind to it, there's really no way we can stop it unless we designate that area as a heritage site or a park or something like that keeps them out there.
You see the threat of mining as the biggest threat to Marshall Lake?
Yeah, she wants to get at the ore underneath.
Yeah.
You know, I guess there's lots of ore underneath there, and I think she approaches this very aggressively.
Thank you, Jack. Further comments from the floor on any topic? Good evening, Mona.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sitting here at this moment as Mona Matei, a member of your community who also sees you as her counsel. And I find it extremely frustrating to hear that comments around the idea that you're not there to represent us, to change things at a higher level. You are. You all took no time at all in protecting a lake that only a few of our residents are impacted by because it might go down a few feet. That wasn't a problem. You feel that you can represent our needs at the provincial level on that particular topic. But when it comes to, as Sandra talked about, social and health issues that impact everybody, and that's everybody because you've talked about it. You talked about your children maybe getting into it and possibly having some problems with it. You talk about the addiction issues. They're all there. We're dealing with them anyway, right? I mean, there's no denying that there's lots of people addicted to drugs in our community. There's lots of health issues, social issues, street children, all sorts of issues. And to hear my counsel actually say they don't think they have a voice that should be heard on our behalf at higher levels on a topic of that depth really, really kind of shocked me. So I'm just, as a constituent, voicing the thought that perhaps you need to look at your topics as always being pertinent. You may not agree with it, and you still may make the same vote that you just did. But I really, like Nigel, feel that it was really important that you have an opinion on it, and that opinion be based on a whole lot of facts. And that, yes, you do represent my voice at higher levels. I rely on that as a constituent in your community. And this has huge implications for your policing costs. It has huge implications for social and health issues for all of us and all our children. So I just wanted to put that forward as something that you want to consider as you move forward.
Thank you. Further comments?
Hello, I'm a new resident as well. My name is Frank Moreland. I have long-term friends here, 20, 30 years. I spent a lot of time in Ralston and Trail. I was born in Nelson. My dad worked in Millhaven Penitentiary, the super security penitentiary in Canada. It's nice that you're able to read things, but to bring this to a personal level, discussion that he had with me 30 years when he found, as you were, I was smoking a joint and he found it and he said I could lose my job over this. So he tells me this story, very personal, that he doesn't like it that he sees all these young whippersnappers that are green, wet behind the ear. They're coming in there, and it's a criminal university. They're in there for 2 years and they learn how to go out as criminals. So yes, diverting it from the criminal system to a health or another system would stop a lot of people learning how to be criminals. My second observation or thing I might bring forward is, as I work as a business developer and an economist, is supply and demand elasticity basically says the more you make something hard to access, you reduce the supply, the price goes up. And again, the criminal system is definitely helping the gangs, the bikers, that the guys wet behind the ears 30 years now that are the bikers because they couldn't get a straight job. I really worry about the product that they actually make. It's the toxicity of it, and they're carrying guns and they're trading it for the other drugs that a lot of people that tried marijuana never did go to. So there's a lot of people that have smoked marijuana that have never used it as a gateway to go on to other further drugs. So those are just a couple of points that I thought you could have from a personal point of view instead of having to read it from somebody else's reports.
Thank you. Further? And hearing none, I would take a motion to adjourn the primary committee meeting. Councillor Verscheiden, was that a adjourn move?
Yes.
Oh. And so we're back in the primary committee? Yeah, and we can have a 5-minute break.